Since inception, Kubernetes users adopted tools like kubectl and YAML deployment files to deploy their apps into Kubernetes. Though this approach might work on the early stages of your project, you don't want to rely on it on the long run. Hi, I'm Victor Gamov from Confluent, and today I'm going to explain some basics of open source tool called Helm and show you how you can use Helm to deploy complex applications to Kubernetes with example of Confluent platform open source. Let's get to it. Now let me explain how deployment of application in Kubernetes works. So typically you're using YAML to define a deployment manifest for your application. Say you want to deploy Kafka and Zookeeper. To deploy Kafka, you need to use Zookeeper, so we start with Zookeeper. So we have this Zookeeper YAML that will contain definition of persistent volumes, because Zookeeper needs to store data somewhere, and this data needs to be available after restart of the Zookeeper. So we need to have a stateful sets for the Zookeeper. In this case, we have a stateful network identity. We can build a quorums and ensemble of Zookeeper clusters. And we need to define services where we can expose functionality and certain ports of this particular Zookeeper cluster. Now, it's going to be our YAML file. So same thing we do for Kafka. For Kafka, we also need to have persistent volume where you store the data, where all your messages will be stored. A stateful set that will define which container to run and how to run it, different parameters including heap size, so far and so on. Also, we need to pass Zookeeper URL here that we have from service on the Zookeeper YAML. And we need to expose URL, so this URL would be used as a bootstrap server for your clients. Now, couple things that we're missing out here. So first of all, we're defining YAML file and we're hard-coding versions of images. So the next time when we want to upgrade version of Kafka, we need to go to manually change this YAML and after that redeploy this. Same thing for Zookeeper. Not very useful if you're running this in a different configuration. You want to change not only version of image, but also change some values, because you can say, Victor, I can use a latest version tag for Zookeeper and for Kafka. So in this case, I can always run latest version and don't need to worry about versions. You will fail very miserably with this approach. Now, another thing is that you have some parameters that you need to pass. So with these parameters, what you do, you also go to this deployment file and change it. So let's see how Helm can help us here. So enter Helm. Helm is open source tool that provide the ways how you deploy not individual YAML files, but also deploy this as a whole applications. And these applications in Helm world called charts. Helm follows same naval theme that all Kubernetes community does, and the charts basically define the map or manifest how this application will be deployed in whole. Helm provides the ways how you can change hard-coded values by using templates. And you can change these values not only having some separate file with values, but also you can change this in the runtime. That gives you flexibility during deployment. So Helm contains two components. My Kubernetes cluster, and first component is Helm. So this is an application that doesn't require to have a kubectl deployed in this cluster. So let me draw kubectl here to show how you use these YAMLs. You feed this in kubectl, and after that kubectl submit this to Kubernetes cluster. Helm follows a little bit different approach because it has also server-side component called tiller. So first thing that you do after installation of the Helm application, you run Helm init. That will deploy a tiller port, and after that, Helm will be able to communicate to this tiller and tell tiller to deploy whatever you need to deploy. So you turn your deployment manifest into Helm charts. You provided templates to the places where you want to customize during run. And after that, you do Helm install and provide a name of this release. If you're not specifying name of this release, name will be automatically generated for you. Also, you can change the version. Sometimes you want to change the version of your components, and in this case, you want to change version of your Helm charts. So you take these charts, Helm will pack it, send it, and the tiller will run this internally. So tiller will be responsible for managing information about versions, releases, and some additional information. Now you can ask me, okay, where I can find all these apps? So first of all, you can go on Google, and maybe some first link that you will see is kubeapps.com, which is open source repository of where you can find many software that has Helm charts. Second thing, using Helm, you can develop your own Helm charts. So you do deployment of your Helm, you test it, you can use it to work with some Kubernetes cluster that deployed in your cloud provider. You can use it even with Kubernetes cluster that deployed in your computer for local development. Now, you can have a private repository of Helm charts. For example, using Artifactory or using some GitHub pages. You can also host your Helm repository in GitHub. Now, what I'm talking about here is Helm charts that allows you to make complex tasks much easier. So this is why we at Confluent got you covered, and we're providing you a Confluent open source platform Helm charts that allows you to deploy things like Apache Zookeeper, Kafka. Deployed a schema registry to manage your schema and Avro schemas, a REST proxy that allows to interact with Kafka through the REST interface, and obviously KSQL, so you can write your stream processing apps. So this is part of CP Helm charts that you can find in our GitHub. A link to this GitHub below in description of this video. The beauty of this setup is that you don't necessarily need to deploy everything. You can deploy only components that are required for your application. You can deploy only Kafka if you're not interested in schema registry and REST proxy. Or you can deploy only Zookeeper for some reasons if you want to deploy and play around with Zookeeper, so forth, so on. You can do this dynamically by shipping these commands through Helm. If you have any questions about Confluent open source platform, make sure to ask them in our community Slack channel. We have dedicated group for Kubernetes questions, for streaming questions, and you can follow some information about meetups. Also, if you find a bug or you have a feature request, you can go to GitHub and send an issue there. Thank you for your time. I hope it was a useful video, and I will see you on the next one.